everybody? It's the Compost Dude, back at you with another video. Today we're going to be splitting a worm bin into an additional worm bin. So I've had this worm bin going for about 6 or 7 or probably 6 months, and worms have definitely grown into the bin. The population density has increased, so I don't think that the worms are going to populate it too much more, so I want to go ahead and split the bin so that I can give one to my dad and he can start his own vermicompost bin, and hopefully from there we can keep splitting them. So I'm going to show you in this video how to split a bin. We're going to do the new bin is going to be a horizontal migration bin. So we'll have, we'll put the worms on one side and split it with a piece of cardboard and put a bunch of food scraps on the other side and just let it go. So I'm going to sort of experiment with that. And as you guys know, I sort of like to do very cheap projects that appeal to everybody. So, you know, aside, this bin costs $4. You can probably find one for free, or, you know, you probably have one laying around your house. But other than that, really, there's no cost at all. You need a piece of cardboard, you need some food scraps. And what we're going to use for bedding is just finished compost that we've made at home. You know, home compost it's still, it's not very, very fine. It's still got a lot of organic material that isn't fully broken down in it. So yeah, it's great bedding. You know, you can go out and you can buy peat moss, and that's great too. That's less sustainable, or the cocoa stuff, you can get that. That works great too, but you know, home compost works great for worm bedding. So we will show you how to do that, so stick around. Okay, so first I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what my original worm bin looked like and what we're gonna go for in our new one. As you can see, that's the top cap. It's got a bunch of holes. I just put a lot of holes all around it. And you guys, if there's any experts out there, tell me if I'm doing something wrong. You know, I'm not an expert in this, but so this was just some food scraps from last week, but maybe as we dig around, we'll see some worms in here. So what I've found is they tend to populate around the food source. So yeah, there's a few worms on this side, but I bet there's a lot more over here on this side. Yep. Yep. Oh yeah. So you can see all those worms in there. Bunch of them wiggling around. And this started from just a handful of worms. You know, I just got a third of a 5-gallon bucket filled up with somebody else's worm bin, and I started my own, and they really taken over this thing. And yeah, so I think we got plenty to start a new bin. One thing I forgot to mention, this bin has been going on for about 6 months. What I did is I added ground up blended food scraps every week. So I would take all my food scraps for the week, put it in a blender, and toss it on top of that bin. Kept it nice and moist. The worms love that broken down stuff, and as you can see, they turned it right to soil. It's been working great. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, that just gives you an idea. That's about 6 months worth of weekly food scraps for a single person. So yeah, it can really handle all that stuff and turn it right to soil. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna drill out all our holes into the new bin. So what I do is I drill out a bunch of holes from the bottom, as many holes as we can, to get good airflow inside the bin. And then I also drill holes above the line of the soil that's gonna be in the bin. So we don't want our worms to escape, but we want them to get a lot of oxygen. They're not gonna go out of those holes because they're gonna be attracted to the food source. So they're not gonna be traveling to the bottom of the bin and like wanting to get out if you maintain it right. And I'll get into basically what the conditions of living we want are after I do this drilling. So, yep, again, we're drilling holes in the bottom and on the top sides of the bin, as well as in the lid itself. And then once we're done with this and we got the bin made, I'll put this whole bin onto like a plastic lid, like just an extra plastic lid, so that it catches any moisture or water that accumulates. My freaking brother left the drill batteries outside, so they got cold and they ran out of battery. So look what we're using today. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. Corded drill, Milwaukee. Tried and true. All right, so we have finished the drilling. Even did a little design there. The Verminator. Yeah. So, one thing I would say, make sure you just clean up all the little microplastics. You know, I'm in the field of water resources, so if you're doing, I wouldn't do this in the middle of your yard. It's just gonna get all up in your soil and those things won't break down, or in the water and the sewer, you know. Who knows what's actually going on, but also probably clean out your bin before we start to add our stuff in here. We're gonna wanna get all those microplastics out. But as you can see, I just did stuff in the bottom. Got that top portion drilled out. Even drilled a little name into the top, the Verminator. So that's what we got going right now. Okay. So now that we've made all of our drill bit, or our holes in our new bin, we are now going to transfer our worms from our own old bins to our new bin. And like I said, we're going to try out this horizontal migration bin. So basically the idea is we have a bunch of normal soil on one side and you put the worms in there and let them get used to it. Then we have this divider here, and the worms sort of, like, one worm will sort of start to go toward this side that has a bunch of raw material, so a bunch of raw food scraps, a little bit of yard waste, a little bit of leaves, but this side is not broken down at all. And then they'll all start making their way through this divider. I put a few holes in it to get them going, but by the end of the process, this thing should be totally gone and totally composted. They're literally gonna eat that wall for breakfast. What? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add all of our bedding materials and our waste that we want broken down, and then we're going to add the worms on top of there. So let's get to it. Like I said, this is compost that we got right out of our home compost system. So I'll just show you what we got going up to this point. That is our home compost right there. We're gonna add the worms right on top of that. As you can see, we got a ton of food scraps in here. And what do you want to put in your worm bin? Well, you want to put things like, coffee grounds, banana peels, potatoes, anything mushy is good. But things you want to avoid is like citrusy stuff, hot and spicy stuff, onions, jalapenos, oranges, stuff like that. You can have some of that in there. It'll be fine. But that's just some of the stuff you want to avoid. And then eggshells are actually really good to put in your worm bin because that helps them digest things, broken down eggshells. So yeah, let's finish this off here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put sort of a cap of these this brown stuff in here, these leaves. So to keep the smell down, since we have a bunch of raw material, we don't want it getting smelly. So we're gonna put a cap of these leaves, a bunch of this brown stuff in here. And then to finish it off, we will take the top layer here, a bunch of the worms, and put them right in there. All right, so now we have 2 full vermi bins that we made out of 1. So we got 2 horizontal migration, very low maintenance vermicomposting bins. So I think what's gonna happen now, I've never done this. Like I said, I think what's gonna happen now is, you know, they'll start to get used to their bin, then they'll start to migrate over to that food scrap side and start to really break things down. And I think what we can expect is in about a couple months, things will start to look more homogeneous. Both sides will start to blend together. And at that point, we can start to maybe mix it together, let it break down. I think within 3 to 6 months, we can start to see some real good worm castings come out of these bins. So just these are very low maintenance bins. You really don't have to feed them. The point is that all the feed stuff is over here, and it'll start to get broken down by those molds and those funguses, and then the worms will eat the juices off of all of that. All you have to do is you got to make sure you're going to store it in a nice, cool place. They like about 75 degrees, but you know, if you're having them in your basement at 65 degrees, it's going to be totally fine. You know, if you got them at about 50 degrees, they're going to slow down a lot. They're not going to die. Or if you have them up to like 80 or 85 degrees, that's not going to be good for them. They're going to start to die off. So you don't want them to get too hot. But overall, yeah, I think we have a great bin setup. We're really just going to let this go. If you're just starting your own vermi bin, maybe I'll do another video on that. Like I said, there's a ton of different ways to do it. This is just one way. We're doing the horizontal migration vermi bin. Typically, if I'm just doing a normal bin, I just have my worms in a bunch of compost, and then each week I'll feed them a bunch of ground up food scraps. I'll put it all in a blender because they really like things that are broken down. Like it's just really easy for them to eat. So thank you for watching the video. I hope you learned a little bit. Definitely comment on the video if you have any questions or if you have any input. I'm definitely just open to learning more, just as you guys are. So let me know, and go ahead and like the video and subscribe, and I'll be posting more videos just like this. So thank you.